Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming and the They Came From RPG Challenge. That's right, a few weeks ago I posted a video inviting you to come up with your own They Came From RPGs, and we had a number of fantastic submissions sent my way. If you came up with a They Came From game and you didn't send it my way by putting it in the comments of the video, I probably won't be commenting on it in this video, but there is still time. You can always let me know and I will direct people to your channel. In the meantime, it's time to announce the winner and who will get a free PDF of They Came From the RPG Anthology. So we can do a bit of a drum roll. But let's go through the finalists, shall we? There were lots of fantastic ideas submitted, and what my criteria was, ultimately, the big tent poles were: you need to come up with a genre we haven't covered before in They Came From. You need to come up with around 5 playable archetypes that haven't been covered before in They Came From. And you need to come up with some cinematics, a few cinematic powers, meta powers that you can use in the course of the game. Now, I'm going to start with one of my favourites, and this one is a favourite. It's probably the closest to an existing property, so unfortunately that means it cannot win, because let's theoretically try publishing this game right now and getting sued as a result. This would be from Ash's vlog. Thank you very much, Ash, for this one. They Came From the Dark Place, which isn't Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. It is a They Came From RPG based primarily on the Alan Wake video games, and I love the Alan Wake video games. They are fantastic, absolutely dripping in atmosphere, and a really good horror slant to take a They Came From game in, because there's already a meta feel to Alan Wake. It, of course, possesses elements of Twin Peaks, of which I'm a massive fan, and anyone who isn't, I would question their taste. And some of the archetypes that were suggested in Ash's video involve the #1 fan, the writer themselves, the detective. And we do have detectives in another They Came From game, I will say, but, you know, there's only so many times you can rewrite detective, cop, gumshoe, investigator, and so on. So I'll give that a pass. I really like the idea of setting a They Came From in the Alan Wake universe, though. It's probably something I will go on and do with They Came From Beyond the Grave, which is our existing horror They Came From. I think it's more Beyond the Grave than it is Camp Murder Lake. And again, it occupies a sort of a more supernatural, liminal, like Curseborn space than Beyond the Grave or Murder Lake. But I think I would use the existing Beyond the Grave for this myself. And of the archetypes, that one, the #1 fan, I know you came up with it, Ash, in I guess in a way that was almost, you were rummaging through your mind to remember the various characters, like the old man and the wife and so on, from the video game. But playing a character whose concept is #1 fan for another character is a really strong character concept. It's not one a lot of people would consider. I love the idea of using the torch, the power of light, as a cinematic, and also the teleportation via dark water that exists in Alan Wake as well. These are perfect cinematics where They Came From. So thank you very much for your submission, Ash. This one does not win the contest, but I wanted to give it an honourable mention because it was a really strong idea. Now let's go into our cyber realms, shall we? Because we had 2 submissions in the way of cyber games. One was from Story Maze, Tom Murr. That was They Came From the Cyber Smog. And this was probably the most vivid, the most, I guess, intriguing from concepts alone being suggested, with archetypes like the Neon Knight, the Speed Demon, the Flash Tinkerer, and so on. These were really strong archetype names that immediately drew me into a certain kind of cyberpunk reality, almost more thinking of a Logan's Run, which is another one that Ash mentioned in another one of his videos. But also, which movie is it I'm thinking of right now? Tron. And it was, yeah, really vivid. Some brilliant cinematics based around AI as well. There's the super secret cyberware cinematic, which basically allow you to show that you all of a sudden have an augmentation in an unsuspecting, unfamiliar way, and it's run with AI, allows you to essentially automate certain processes so you don't have to take the actions yourself. Again, really strong ideas from Tom on that one. I liked it. Not the winner, but I wanted to feature. They came from the Cyber Smog, and I also wanted to feature from the channel RVCM. They came from Augments and Implants, our other cyberpunk game. Interestingly, RVCM said he wanted to publish this video quickly so no one else would do the idea first, because you know what, we haven't done a cyberpunk They Came From yet, so we haven't done that kind of nearish future hard sci-fi kind of thing. And it's interesting that two people came up with cyber as a theme. There was the Chrome Dome archetype. Well, that was one of the names suggested. And the Tycoon, who I believe RVCM said wouldn't even spit in a poor person's cup to give them a drink. The Dupe or Duplicate. We already have an archetype called the Dupe in one of our They Came From games, but not as a shortening for duplicate. So this would be your android. So They Came From Augments and Implants was cyber more on the lines of Blade Runner, where They Came From the Cyber Smog was more, I guess, felt slightly less dystopian. So you had cinematics suggested from RVCM, such as the Tears in the Rain cinematic, which will allow you to soliloquize and stop all action. That's a fantastic name for a cinematic based on a cyber game. Firing on All Cylinders, a 2 rewrite cinematic that basically allows you to propel yourself more than you ordinarily would be. These were brilliant ideas. For every single one of them, I'm going to link in the video description below so you can find these videos yourselves and have a think about them. But thank you very much, both of you. Not winners in this case, but very, very good suggestions. Now down to the final two that I wanted to profile. We go back to the Story Maze and Tom Murr. This one was They Came From Happily Ever After. A really strong concept for a They Came From. Yes, there are shades of They Came From Beyond the Grave because so many people attach fairy tales to horror. And yes, there's a They Came From the Cyclops' Cave feel as well, in the sense that it's fantasy, but this has a genre all of its own, the fairy tale. And what's more, if in the grand scheme of things I was able to dole out They Came From core books to people to do with what they will, this is the kind of one where I know that the Story Maze channel, I know Tom is really into his fairy stories. I know he loves the Changeling RPG, Changing the Lost, and so I have every confidence he would be able to handle this really, really well. And he does so in his video talking about it. So he has his archetypes that are really tightly drawn from fairy tale, I guess, myth, the enduring, the blunderer, the wit, characters who would exist in those fairy tales. And the Beast. The Beast was my favourite, and described with such eloquence. Thank you very much, Tom. My favourite cinematic was A Quick Trip to Hell, which evoked the fact that in a lot of fairy tales, sometimes characters just have to visit hell to achieve something, and with this one rewrite cinematic, whoop, you're down in hell, consorting with a demon, fetching a spirit who was trapped there, or an artifact that's been locked away, and then back up to the surface again. Deathly Scenery was another really good one, a 2 rewrite cinematic that speaks to the low picture quality of a great deal of fairy tale movies where the scenery is basically collapsing around you and murderous. It also ties into the idea of, I guess, being lost in the woods and the woods being predatory. Really excellent idea, Tom. Thank you very much for submitting it. And it was along those similar lines that we draw our winner. And this was from, and I may mispronounce the channel name, it's either MK Roek, it could be M Krorech. I will link it below, but you win, however I pronounce your name, MKM. They Came From Back Yonder. Now, this was a really thoughtful concept, a really thoughtful idea. And it has that fairy tale feel. It's more folklore, I would suggest, than fairy tale. Rural fantasy was how he described it. There's a supernatural element. Your archetypes include the Rambler, who wanders hither and yon, the Hedge Witch, an expert in folk magic, the Scholar, one of the few graduates in the local area, the Worker, the Elder, really low-key archetypes, but incredibly brimming with flavour, because it has that small-town American feel where just off the beaten track you're going to encounter something weird, which if you've been watching my videos about Curseborn, you'll know I'm a big fan of. It's something I explored a fair amount in Solemn Vale, my work there for that RPG too. But Solemn Vale is very British folk horror, and They Came From Back Yonder has a very American folk horror feel, and I was really enjoying the description of where this game would go. I love the cinematics. That brings to mind a song where essentially you can draw clues out of a musical accompaniment. Not much more than a deer path. You can essentially make a trail. Let's say you're lost somewhere, but oh look, there's a deer path. It might take us to our location. There may be some hazards along the way, but at least we're not lost anymore. Really, again, I keep using the word really, but strong, impressive ideas here, and this one was my favourite. They Came From Back Yonder. Please comment in the video description below, in the comments below, so that I can, or get in touch with me, I should say, via matthewdawkins.com. Send me your email address, and I will ensure that you get a complimentary copy of They Came From the RPG Anthology for your participation. And I do hope that doesn't deter the rest of you who participated in this from purchasing a copy of They Came From the RPG Anthology, which will be linked in the video description below, because I hugely appreciate your involvement in this. And I think I may have to run this competition again at some point soon, because the ideas were so grand, so fantastic. I would have loved to have seen even more Nightmare explored on Ash's channel, because I know he's a big fan of Nightmare with a K. So let's see what the future holds. Just because you lost this time doesn't mean you will next time. Keep those ideas buzzing. I was so enjoying this, and I would have loved to have seen even more videos. So if this has inspired you, please start thinking about what They Came From you would like to see, and maybe you can get a copy of RPG Anthology sent your way as well. But in the meantime, stay tuned, and I will announce when I'm running another competition. Thank you very much for watching, and congratulations to the winner.